You're now listening to the show about the shit in life that's just a bit too much, from the perspective of stand-up comics, with our hosts, Carmelo Bongiovi and Ken Krantz. This week's topic, daddy issues, with our guest, Mike Sicoli. This is A Bit Too Much.
Dude, your fucking life changes so much. And, like, I compare, we've talked about this a few times, I compare, like, my, me as a dad to my dad as a dad. Like, I think about it all the time because it's so fucking different. I'm pretty fucking Italian, right? Like, my parents are off the boat. I'm first generation American, Italian American. And, like, but there's things about being an immigrant that I could never relate to. Right, that even though I saw it firsthand, but like I could never really relate to like what they went through, coming here with nothing, knowing no one, coming with no. I feel a lot for my parents and what they went through, but my dad never let go of the like immigrant struggle like mentality, even when he was doing well for himself at one point in his life. Like he never let go of that. He's always like a chip on. So Sicilian, always chip on his shoulder.
I'm Sicilian too.
Yeah. Oh, are you? Mm-hmm. So, pretty temperamental fucking people, very, like fly off the handle.
Do you get like that too?
I do.
I do too.
I do.
Yeah.
But I don't often. Like I control it.
That's really
do you? You see, it's funny because you seem, maybe because we only know each other in this setting, like today, you know, but you don't seem the type.
I've never seen it with it.
I don't want to be. I've shown you a video before. Remember the video I showed you when I threw the cup at that guy?
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to, but I feel like I'm very easy to get along with. Like, I get along with Ken Gray. Everybody I meet, I'm usually cool with.
Everyone gets along with Ken. He's high.
Yeah, exactly.
He's fucking, no one has a problem with Ken. He's like, hey, dude.
Everybody.
Ken's like, well,
I could point you in the direction of a few people that have a problem.
We've talked about this before. There's a before Ken that I didn't know that apparently a lot of people were like, no, he's kind of an asshole.
Probably make an interesting podcast.
And I don't know that version of Ken. He seems like a very sweet guy to me.
It's good to get in Ken's head about that, though, because it's obvious when he thinks he was just an asshole. We did a road gig one time at a cigar place, and he told me, he was like, I'm so nervous that like sometimes I'll answer people and they won't get me right away. Like they'll think I'm an asshole. Yeah. So remember the lady was like, oh, what could I get for you? Whatever. And you were like, oh, I'm okay for now. And she walked out and I was like, damn, bro, that's really how you answered her? And I was like,
that's funny.
And then I drove home the whole way like, fuck, was I an asshole to that lady? I thought I was polite.
That's funny. So both of your dads passed. What ages were you when your dads passed?
My dad, it was just a few years ago. It was like,
oh, okay.
I think we're like 2019. Yeah. So it's been like 5-6 years.
Gotcha. And so he was much like, I mean, how old is he?
He was 78.
Oh, okay. Not super old.
No.
Okay. Got it.
No,
okay,
but also,
so it's all right.
No, I mean the opposite.
All right.
I mean more tragic because I didn't know maybe it was 80s or something like that. But like I feel like below 80s is always tragic. You know, 70s is still tragic. My parents are in their 70s.
My dad was 46.
46.
Yeah.
Well, how old are you?
I was 17 at the time, so I'm 32 now.
Yeah.
I was 17. It was just my 17th. Oh no, it was right before my 18th birthday, like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I got Social Security checks for 2 weeks, and then they all just went away.
That's the part you're.
Happy birthday to you.
Yeah, right before my prom, right before my graduation, right before my birthday. It was a motorcycle accident too. So
oh,
it was
it?
Out of nowhere. I was with him the whole day before it happened.
Whoa.
And then I remember we were in New Hope, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And I went with him on his bike, and we went with my sister there, and it was a Sunday, so we're Italian, so we were gonna go home and like eat.
Yeah.
I call it macaroni. I'm not one of those hacky Italians. Pasta. I don't think we had macaroni.
This is gonna be a whole fucking episode right here. There's between a very Italian American and Italians.
There's Italian Americans and then there's Medigans.
Yeah, well,
right?
But then there's also like just the off the boat motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Because it's not whatever. I don't want to argue with you about pasta. That's all we're here to do. You're gonna be fired up. I'm like, sorry. I was about to ask you sauce or gravy.
Oh man, I can't do that. That has become such such a hacky Italian
Right,
comedy
right, but it's a real thing, though.
It is a real thing.
It's a real thing.
I'm gravy, but I know a lot of people.
Well, I know
are
you're
sauce.
gravy because you're macaroni.
Yes,
You're saying
exactly.
macaroni.
Yeah,
If you're
yeah.
pasta, you're sauce. Because gravy, it's not.
I should be in North Jersey with the gravy people,
Yeah.
but I'm not.
the
I'm in
gravy
Central.
people. That sounds like a very racist.
The gravy people, yeah.
Gravy
Fucking-
people. Jersey Italians, the gravy people. Sorry, back to your dead dads. Where were we? We were. Yeah. So okay. So you were with them all day. You were on the bike.
I was on the bike with him on the way there. We met our sister, my sister, and then he's like, "Let's go back. We'll have some macaroni, whatever." I was like, "Okay." So I don't even think you know this. When we were leaving, I put my helmet on and got on his bike. And then I felt guilty because my sister had driven there and now had to drive to our house,
Okay.
which is further, alone. So I said, I'm going to ride with Tiffany instead. That way she doesn't have to drive alone. And thank God I did, because we got home. He wasn't coming home. And we were like,
He was
what's
on the way to your family
home.
dinner.
Yeah, and we had gotten there. And I'm waiting, we're waiting, and we're like, where the fuck is he? And we thought, because he was in like a motorcycle club, he did all that shit. So we thought he got pulled over and maybe mouthed off to the cop and he was arrested. I looked online. I remember
There's a pretty good assumption with an Italian dad.
yeah, exactly.
He's probably arguing if he's not home, he's arguing with the cop or he's with his gumad.
One in a motorcycle gang. Yeah. So he I went upstairs and I just started Googling everything because it was like, where's my dad? Me and my dad were tight.
What were you Googling? Where's my dad?
I was like traffic.
I started Googling.
Yeah. I
Hey Siri, have you seen my dad?
I Googled where's my.
I thought I'd find the search results.
I googled where's my dad and funeral home started coming up. I saw it said incident on 518 and I was only 17 at the time, so I was like, I don't know if we take that road. And then I remember my door opened and I heard downstairs something happened, so I went downstairs and my godfather was there, and he's my dad's best friend for like 40 years, so I knew something was up. And then he told me, and then it was like my life just completely changed. That I feel like that's where my life, unfortunately, that's where it started, I feel like.
Right, because there's moments in our lives that like just tragic or good or whatever that just sort of shift.
Yes.
What you see as your life, what you are every day.
Yeah.
And then something happens. And sometimes it's a death, sometimes it's having a kid, sometimes major things all of a sudden you don't even see it coming, and then you're like, oh, I live a different life now than I did yesterday.
Dude, I was always very like close with my parents. I would stay home. I wouldn't really do anything. When my dad died, I was on my own for like a long time. I moved from house to house to house. I lived in like 3 different states, 8 different towns.
And your mom
I don't really. So my mom and I, when I was a kid, we had a rough go.
Okay, got it.
And I got I don't want to say too much, but my dad got custody of me.
Got it.
And my sister still lived with her, so I would visit every now and then, every other weekend, really. But when he died, it was like, okay, like you're going back with your mom, and I refused to go back. Did not want to go back and live with her, so I lived with my cousin, who was a lesbian, who had an adopted son, and still lived with her ex-girlfriend.
Okay.
And I lived there for a couple months.
Like she was broken up, but they still live with each other?
In the house together.
Got it, yeah.
So I was living in their basement. They had like a finished basement. I was living there. And I wasn't really close with my cousin before this. So we were kind of getting to know each other as I was living there. And I didn't even know she was a lesbian before that. So I remember living...
So you found out the finished basement was all done by your own handiwork?
But yeah. I figured out she did the whole thing.
Lesbians always have a finished basement.
She laid the fucking floors down. She was cool, my cousin. My cousin,
yeah.
Dina, she was cool as fuck. She was like one of those lesbians where you're like, yo, that's my boy. Like we're gonna chill. But so her ex-girlfriend had vitiligo. You know what vitiligo is?
No.
Yeah, it's like the Michael Jackson thing,
Yes,
right?
vitiligo
I
is
thought that was like an Indian dish.
Yeah, it's like the Econo Lodge. I had she had vitiligo, and when you drink wine, it slows down vitiligo. So she was hammered drunk, and she was a brutal wine drunk every night, like nasty. Yeah. I remember one time she started early.
She's like, I gotta slow this shit down, man.
Exactly.
Pour me another glass of wine.
It sucked.
I have
because
vitiligo too.
We would all have to
drink a lot of wine.
You have vitiligo?
No, I just drink a lot of wine.
So she goes, we have.
Bad joke.
They wouldn't even stay at the house when she got like that. I would stay there down the basement. She would leave me alone. But one night she like opened the door and she yelled downstairs. I'm like, oh, yo, she's hammered. Like I gotta pretend I'm asleep. So I pretended I was asleep, and then I heard her walking down the stairs. This is a true story. Heard her walking down the stairs. I'm like, yo, what is this chick about to do? Like, I know she's a lesbian, so I know she's not gonna like try to fucking do anything weird. But I'm like sleeping. I was sitting on the floor and I had my head on like the coffee table and I'm laying there and she comes downstairs and she sits behind me and she starts giving me a massage, bro. Yeah. And I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. And I remember I got up and I left and I moved in with my godfather after that. And he had like a huge fucking mansion.
What the fuck is your godfather? What the fuck happened there? Okay, so she came down and gave you a massage.
Yeah.
And
so
you
she
were
gave
like,
me a massage and I was like, I was so young. I was 17 still. So I was like, I didn't know what to do. I wasn't about to go through with it.
did you tell your cousin?
I told my cousin.
Yeah.
She was pissed, bro.
Yeah.
She let her have it after that. And then I left shortly after that and I lived with my godfather. He had like a big mansion, cool guy. But we started butting heads a little bit and I felt guilty about it. I felt like it was my fault because I lost my dad and I was being a dickhead.
Gotcha.
So I ended up leaving there. I moved to Florida. Worst mistake I ever made.
Yeah.
I was like, I got to get the fuck out of here now.
Right.
And then I ended up moving back in with my mom.
Oh, so then years later. Now, how much time has passed now? Your
Now
dad passes,
it's been
you've
about
done the moves.
It's been about 4 years. And I moved back in with my mom and I got kicked out during Sandy. And I had to drive.
Like during it?
Yeah, during like the heat of the storm, I had to drive in Sandy.
Like the day of the storm.
I stayed at my best friend's house and heard his parents banging all night. I'm like, you couldn't have taken one night off. Like, I'm staying with you. My friend wasn't even there. He was away at school.
They were banging out of fear.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
they were like, oh my God, the storm's going to get us.
I think they wanted me to wake up and go over there. Check out what's going on. Like, hey, what's up? Everybody all right?
Dude, you must have been so hot.
that
Everyone
would-
was just fucking seducing you all the time.
Yeah, dude, I didn't even think about it.
On the
Like,
other episode we recorded, everyone was afraid your uncle's gonna fuck you. Everyone's like, he's just so hot. His uncle's definitely gonna fuck him. And then a lesbian came on to you.
yeah, and I was over 200 pounds at the time.
Your friend's parents were like, let's have a threesome.
Well,
with
they
this
were
guy.
like, yeah, he can't run.
Yeah, I
like,
was fat at
he's-
the time.
or was it
can't
like,
escape.
or they knew like what you were going through. And they were like-
Exactly.
you were like the perfect.
They're like, he's vulnerable.
By the
so
way,
vulnerable.
nothing sounds like it would help this situation. Like, so your cousin was broken up with her girlfriend.
Yeah.
But they were tied to a baby in a house.
Yeah.
yeah.
So tensions were probably pretty high.
Tensions
I've-
were high.
I've been in that, like, oh, I'm still living in the house, but this is over.
Right,
I've been,
right.
that is not a fun time of your life. And now we're going to bring in this, like, grieving, fat, maybe hot kid and just throw him in the basement.
Italians can be fat hot. That's a thing. Italians can be
That is
so
very true.
chubby and
cute.
adorable,
Yeah.
and they might be packing. Like these are all possibilities with Italians. So like younger fat hot is a type.
Yeah. My cousin tried really hard. She definitely did. Like that was one of my favorite places, even with all that happening that I
Right.
lived, because I had so much freedom. I never had that before.
Yeah.
I was grounded. I was the kind of kid I was grounded all the time.
Some people listen to this like with all that happened. They're like, what really happened? Everyone just tried to fuck you.
That's really what it fucking it seemed like. I didn't even notice it until you
Why
said
was
it.
everyone
I was like,
trying
wow,
to
that
fuck you?
happened twice.
You know,
And
how,
every
you know how
story-
good he feels about himself
Every
right now?
story, well, yeah, sure, but every story you're telling me is like, oh, and then
I have
there was
very-
that ended because they tried to fuck me.
Yeah, it's crazy because I still have extremely low self-esteem.
Yeah, well, the right kind of people. So, how old are you at this point?
I'm 32 now.
No.
Well, I was only 17 at this point.
Yeah. So you're still pretty young, so that it's not going to necessarily raise your self esteem because those are the wrong people trying to fuck you. None of those. It's not like you met a 40-year-old divorced mom at a bar and she wanted to fuck you. Like that's hot when you're 17. When it's
My
your uncle,
lesbian
cousin,
yeah.
Friends, parents.
My
none
lesbian
of those are
cousin
good.
riddled with vitiligo, fucking Dalmatian coming at me. What am I gonna do? I should have done it.
You
I'm
should have.
sorry, yeah.
Should for the story. It would have been a better story. So okay, so now then you went to your friend's house.
Yeah, I ended up moving in with my godfather,
They fucked all night.
and then I moved to
And he fucked him.
and then I moved to you know what? I moved in with my godfather, and I remember like he helped me get a car. I got a brand new Camaro. It was the Transformers one, and I was so happy. And I was like, this is great, but the payments were crazy. I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'll do it. And then I remember living in their house, and it was so big, and I'm like, I'm so lucky. And I remember I was power washing the deck in their pool, and I'm like, wow, I'm so lucky that I have a godfather like this that lets me live there. And then I was cleaning the floor in their garage, and I'm like, I'm so lucky. Look at all these cars. And then I was cleaning their kitchen, and I'm like, what a good kitchen. And I'm like, I'm a live-in maid here. I was like, let me get the fuck out of here.
Dude, you know what's so fucking weird? You got trafficked into your own family.
I did, bro. I did.
All these stories are fucking horror stories,
Yeah.
except you knew all these people.
I knew them all. I thought I could trust them all. And you know what? Worst part so far. So my dad died March 21st, 2010.
Okay.
January 14th, 2011 was his birthday, the first one after he died. Do you know how my family celebrated? To celebrate, they invite the whole family over. We all hang out. Then they turn the lights off. They bring out a cake with candles in it.
Okay.
For my dad.
Yeah.
Who's dead.
Yeah.
And then they lit the candles. And we all sat there for
They lit them in the dark?
They lit them in the dark.
You light them in the light and you bring them in the
sang
dark.
happy birthday. And then we sat there after the happy birthday song and the candles are still burning. Everyone's crying because it's like morbid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's not coming to blow these fucking things
Yeah,
out,
who
right?
blew him out? That's what I'm. That's
We
what
did.
I'm,
All the kids did. They're like, this is symbolic. All the kids blow them out. I'm like, I want to go home and cry. Like, I want to just fucking mourn.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to go home and cry, but I don't have a home.
Yeah, I don't want to go back in the basement. Yeah.
Every time there's a home for me, someone's trying to fuck me or like putting me
Yeah.
into like some sort of slavery situation.
And the worst part is, like, I'll try to tell these stories on stage. Sometimes, like, if I got a new bit where I'm like, oh, that happened, that's kind of funny, let me try that. I'm like, let me try this on stage. And then sometimes people get it and they, like, really laugh. But sometimes people are like, oh.
Yeah, they feel bad for you.
Oh, they feel bad.
I've done
Those are
material
hard.
where like people are like, because I've done material about my dad, and I've had people come up to me and be like, "You really shouldn't be doing that." And it's
Your
like,
dad.
It's my dad.
Yeah, that's so odd.
Yeah, but I lost my mom a few months ago, and it's like, yeah, that's why it's relatable. Everybody deals with this shit.
You'd think that person would relate more.
Yeah.
Did you find that did comedy help you in a big way with the death of your dad? Because you were already doing comedy, just like me. I was still doing comedy.
Comedy helped me. Yeah, I remember. But my dad died very much like an accident.
Did he? I didn't know that.
Yeah. He was going for a bike ride and got hit by a car.
My dad was cooler because he was on a motorcycle.
Right. And he died younger. It was also cooler.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Was cooler.
And it was right. But so also a bike. So I think the moral of the
Same,
story
yeah.
is no bikes of any sort in Jersey. That's what I'm hearing.
But yeah, I remember first, and the way it happens, like when it's like I spoke to him the day before, like when it happens, like here 1 second, gone the next, it really fucks with your head.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
I did find, I remember, in fact, like just maybe it was a week after his death, and I had to cancel a handful of shows, and then maybe a week after I went over to Stress Factory, and Colin Quinn was there, and they gave me a guest spot, and it was the first time in a week that for 10 minutes I was able to think about something else.
Something else, yeah, sure.
So it was just having that distraction where it's like there's something about stand-up where you don't, any of your worries or any of your problems, the second you get up there, it just melts away.
You're in a different world for that time you're on stage. For
so
sure.
I use like that. For me, that was cathartic.
Do you ever feel, because you're both comics, right? Do you ever feel like I'm drinking, so by the way, I love you.
You're a sentimental drunk.
He's had
man.
one sip.
I was gonna say you're drinking.
I didn't
You
eat
just started.
all day, bro, so this is fucking perfect. I haven't smoked any weed.
I was like, once we were like, let's do an episode on dads. I'm like, I'm gonna need to fucking drink because
Yeah,
when I
dude.
get to mine, I'm gonna need some fucking drinks.
Yeah. What was I just gonna say? I said I love you.
I don't know. I don't know. Now I feel like you're trying to fuck him. Like everyone's
yeah.
trying to fuck you. And
That's how the cycle of abuse works.
So you said you're
I know
both
what
comics.
I remember what. So, like, do you guys ever feel like, because you have your life that's not comedy and it's very different from your life that is, and it's like at night comedy usually. Do you ever feel like Batman? Like you got that Bruce Wayne aspect during the day, and then at
just
night
not
you're
as
like
cool.
not as cool.
Yeah.
But like you go there and you feel like kind of like a different person.
It does feel. It feels like for me. I could say it feels like a second life. Sometimes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I've talked about this before, but like I had a whole career as like a creative director in advertising, which I don't do anymore. And when I did both, it felt like it actually felt like I had three different lives. I had my home life, which is just like my peace. I've lived with my wife even far before we got married. We've been together 14 years. We've lived together almost that entire time. So I have that at home. Mm-hmm. and I was doing stand up before I knew her, but then I had this job, and I couldn't really talk about stand up at the job because I know the content of what I talk about on stage. So I wanted to keep them separate. and then I had stand-up. So I really did feel like 3 different people sometimes, which is really fucking bizarre. But also kind of cool because you get to be 3 different people in a way. Like it kind of like I could be like, I could get all dressed nice and go have like an important meeting. I can go home and really be myself with my wife, and then I have the other part of me that also feels like really like myself.
Yeah.
On stage, it's a different. But my wife knows that side of me too, of course. You know what I mean? But like then the job was separate. So yeah, no, I completely feel like that. Do you feel like that?
Yeah.
Like you have a different.
Yeah, but I feel like it's since I've gotten remarried and like so now I feel like it's not as much.
It's a little more blended. I think it's getting older too.
Yeah,
so I don't feel as separate.
But also, my wife fully supports the stand up and like gets what I'm trying to do and thinks I'm funny and like understands. She understands comedy really well.
Yeah, you really lucked out.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like my wife, if she comes to a lot of my shows and if she doesn't, even if I just record the audio, she'll be like, send me your set. And she's tough on me. She'll give me notes, but they're actually good notes.
Yeah,
and she'll also like, she won't blow smoke up my ass. She'll be like, hey, you really phoned it in tonight. You know, like
you need that.
You kind of do. Even this, I'm doing it 15 years. Even this far in, it's good to have.
Oh,
that.
for sure it is. You know, because you know how easy is it to be like that crowd sucked, but it's like
it's so easy to blame it on other people. But when you have someone who you're close with who wants what you want for yourself, and they're able to say, hey, you did this, and it was like that's definitely so helpful. Constructive criticism is so helpful, and you don't have to take it. Like you don't have to take it.
Yeah, right. Someone giving you notes, you don't have to use those notes, but they're good to have.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if you don't like them, whatever.
Well, what's your deal with your dad? I know because you said I think your dad's still alive, right?
He's alive.
Right.
So now I was pretty close to my dad growing up, but my dad's very strict. But like my dad was he is a very, I say was because it's like we don't talk anymore, but he is a very, I mean, he's Jekyll and Hyde, man. Like he is the most fun guy at a party. He likes to party, but he also will smack the shit out of you.
Sounds like my dad.
Yeah. So he did smack the shit out of us.
Now, how long has it been since you talked to your dad?
So now it's been, all right, so let me get there. So what happened was my dad had a giant falling out with basically the whole family, like, or a lot of people in his life. He was falling apart a bit, right? And I felt for him, even though so much of it was his fault. I didn't feel bad for the things he did, of course, but I definitely felt like I have to stay close to him because no one else, him and my brother weren't talking for a while. So he maintained as him and my mom got divorced. I'm a teenager at this point. They got divorced. I guess I was like 19, 20, something like that. And so I'm like, he has gone this far maintaining the family until it all caught up with him, all of his actions caught up with him. I still felt like I got to stay close to this guy because he has no one now. And I always thought he'd bounce back. My dad was also like the rock of this giant Sicilian family of all of his siblings. Mm-hmm. He was the one everyone came to. He was the one that had the big dinners at the house. He was almost like the grandma, of like the old Italian grandma. He was the one that kept it all together. So then when he kind of shit the bed in his life, everyone sort of went away because the way he was being, right? Like they had right to go away and he was doing stupid shit. But then what happened is that I stayed close with him. So for example, he got this little tiny apartment. My dad used to be a barber. He had sold his business at this point. I still used to go get my haircut from him in his apartment because it was a way to like talk to him. Mm-hmm. I was trying to like give him, I could have gotten a haircut somewhere else, but I would go to him because it was my like time with my dad. It was like, all right, you know what? I'll sit here. I'll catch him up on what I'm doing.
And it was free.
And it was free. Yeah. Right. It was part of it. And, right. So like that was my brother at the time wasn't talking to him. So I was like, he's got to have one of his sons close to him. Right. He didn't go to my brother's wedding. It's a whole, right? So,
I mean, it sounds like you really did try.
I tried so much that when my brother and my father stopped talking and it was leading up to my brother's wedding, I don't even know if my brother really knows that I did this way. I went to both of them separately and said, You need to talk to him. This is fucking stupid. And then I went to the other ones like, you need to talk to him.
Yeah.
This is fucking stupid. And then they had a meeting. And they both decided maybe because of the way things were, it was better that he wasn't there. But it wasn't like, fuck you, I'm not coming to your wedding. It melded, it for a little bit sort of mended their relationship.
It was almost productive.
It was kind of productive. I mean, for their relationship long term, it was productive. In the moment, it was like, all right, that's still too much heat. I can't come to your wedding. There's still too many people there that, you know. So anyway. So that happens. I still maintain this relationship with him. Fast forward, I meet my wife. We date for 7 years. We lived together for most of that time. 7 years before we got married. I'm getting married. I get engaged. Right? Fucking. It's a long time coming because I was broke for a long time. So I finally had enough money to get that engagement ring. I tell him, and I'm like, listen, you're coming to my engagement party. Like, you're not. It's not going to ever be a repeat of the situation with my brother because we're going to get ahead of this and you're going to be there. Because I know it broke my brother's heart too. Like, he didn't like that happened with him too. And so I was like, they talk sometimes now, so it's fine. Like, everything. But like, he still hadn't now more years have passed. He hadn't spoken to all these people. So it was this thing leading up to I had an engagement party in America because I was getting married in Mexico. My wife and I had a small thing in Mexico. I didn't know who was going to come. So we had a little bit of a big thing. And so he comes to the party. Everyone's surprised to see him. It's like a thing. And my wife's family there. He's there. We have the seat. Now, I don't know where to, if you've ever had like a big party or wedding or something, I don't know where to seat everyone, right? There's a seating chart situation that has to happen. And people have to be, I don't know where to put him because he's not talking to so many people. So I sat him at like a random table. I didn't put him at like up front with everyone because it was like my mom was there. Then Sarah had, my wife had her family there. And my dad is super old school Sicilian, even though he knows he's the guy who has made this all really fucking awkward for everyone. I don't know this at first. He's offended at what table he's sitting at. This is the most fucking Sicilian goddamn thing. This is more Sicilian than fucking pasta. This is the anger and and I think what happened was, if I know my dad, because you'll never express an emotion that isn't rage, or pure euphoria. He'll have that side of him too. He'll get super drunk. I love you. But there's no in between. There's no just like subtle feelings. I think what happened was he's sitting at this table that didn't feel like prime table for an Italian to sit at their son's thing. And he's also looking around the room and he's seeing all the people that used to be in his life. I think it was too much for him.
Yeah, no,
I think it got overwhelming for him. Yeah. But because his brain doesn't work that way, because he doesn't have enough emotional intelligence to process, why do I feel badly right now? He took the whole thing and made it about where he was sitting. And he left the party. I didn't even know. He left the party. And at one point, one of my cousins was like, hey, your dad left the party. And I was like, did he? I was like, why? He's like, I don't know. He looked pretty pissed. I thought someone said something to him. Yeah. Right? Nothing happened. In fact, people who hadn't talked to him for years, people who were kind of mad at him, went up to him. I saw people giving him hugs. People were like, you know what? I think people, like, years had passed.
Yeah.
I think some people were like, whatever, we're here for something else. We're not going to make this about us. Good to see you.
And everybody's probably moved on with their lives.
Yeah. Right. And they all at one point
let go with some of this anger.
Yes. And they all loved this man dearly for their whole lives.
Right.
Even if they were still mad at him in that moment, I think they were like, you know what? It's good to fucking see you. I think that's how it happened. And I say I think because I didn't, what happened was he left the party.
Do you think he left out of guilt?
Right. I think so. I think that he felt like, I'm not the dad I should have been. I'm not granted we're older, but like, I'm not being the dad right now I should be. I'm not being, because being a dad of adults is different, than being a dad of kids.
I'm sure it's harder.
Yeah. Right? Well, because now you have like adult conversations. So like when him and my brother had to meet, that's a fucking two men talking now. Yeah. It's not your little kid anymore. Yeah. You still have a father-son dynamic, but you're talking to another man now. That's that's a different shift. I haven't experienced that yet. Obviously, my daughter's very little, but I imagine there's going to be a shift in our relationship when she is an adult. And hopefully it's a good shift, but it's not going to be the same. Like we're not going to have the same. I tell you what to do, and we're like I'm not taking care of you every day. Anyway, so I think yes, I do think there was guilt there. I think he felt all these, not just guilt for me, guilt for everything. All these people he wronged that he loved and all this stuff. So I think he got overwhelmed and he left the situation. And I do think he was also mad that I sat him where I sat him. I do think that mattered to him.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot was just going through.
A lot going on, right?
He wasn't really ready for it.
And he's not the kind of guy who could process his emotions in a healthy way. That's just not who he is.
So is this that was the last time you spoke to him?
So he left. I called him after the party. My wife and I were staying at a hotel near the venue. I was like, I gotta go outside and like call my dad. I was like, I just need to like figure out what the hell happened. And I honestly didn't think it was gonna be what it was. I thought he was gonna answer the phone and be like, listen, I someone said something fucking stupid. I thought I was gonna hear him. I knew I was gonna hear him scream, but I thought he was gonna scream about someone else. And I said, got on the phone with him. He's like, hi. And I hear there's a lot of noise. He's already gotten himself out to a bar with his friends drinking. I hear a lot of noise, and I'm like, and I'm sure he also started drinking at my party, which was like a brunch thing, and also drove drunk. I'm sure that all, because that's just what he always did. Right? So now I'm like, hey, what happened? And he goes, I was like, why'd you leave? And he goes, why'd I fucking leave? And then when the second I heard that, I'm like, oh, this is about me. I know it. I know my dad's tone. I'm like, oh, here we go. I'm in the parking lot of this venue. It's a hotel that had like a venue. I'm in the parking lot now, and I'm like, what? And he's like, you fucking sat me like he basically was saying like I treated him like some like second class citizen. And I'm like, wait a minute. I was like, hold on, that's why you left? He's like, yeah. He's like, I'm your father. I should be. And I go, Dad, not for nothing. Like, I didn't know where to sit you. He's like, fuck everyone else. And I'm like, well, why fuck everyone else? Like, why would it be? This is a party as a celebration for my future wife and I. Why would my mentality, because you fucked up so long ago, why would my mentality be fuck everyone else? That's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, where do I sit this guy who, by the way, I'm the only one who's still talking to you. I said that
and
to him.
Isn't going to want to sit with any of the people he knows.
Right. Yeah, you said that. I mean, all I saw the whole time I was doing that seating chart was knowing him. There's going to be a fucking fight. He's going to call someone a cunt, and it's going to be a fucking problem. In fact, he got on the phone with me and called a bunch of people cunts, and he was like, "Fuck this person. This cunt didn't want this, and this cunt," and he's flipping out. In this heavy Italian accent that my dad has. The only words he really said clearly were curse words. And I'm like, but you can't sit with this person because you haven't spoken. You can't sit with them, and you can't sit. And he's like, no, fuck them. I can sit anywhere I fucking want, and all this stuff. You should have sat me there. And then he complained. I think I didn't introduce him to someone, but it was like the beginning of he left early. I didn't get around to introducing him to my wife's father, right?
Yeah.
But I was going to, of course.
Right.
It was still in the meet and greet part of the night.
It's a wedding.
Yeah. So it's an engagement party, but it was very much
sorry.
no, but it was very much like a wedding. It was like a big thing. It was like at a hall. Everyone was dressed in like it was basically almost like a wedding. And if you've ever thrown a party like that, it's a lot for the person throwing. It's not fun for the people throwing the party.
No.
You know what I mean? It's more for the guests.
Yeah, it's work.
And so we're still going through that thing before we could actually have fun. Now I fucking had fun at that party eventually because I didn't even know he left. I didn't know any of this was happening. We had a fucking great party. So now I'm on the phone with him after he's flipping out. And I'm like, why is this always? And I finally, which is a conversation I never had with him. Why is it everyone else's fault? Right? Like, why is everything that bothers you everyone else's fault? Don't you think there's a comment? You're the one who's always pissed off. You're the one who's always, your life is fucked up because of what you did. And it was the first time I heard him even admit a little bit of it. He goes, you think I don't know that? I know I fucked up. And that was all. That's the one line. That was it.
Yeah.
But then it went right back to blame.
It's a very important line.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is
but
though. It
that's-
is though. And for a second, I thought there was
That's
a lot of
hopeful almost.
there was a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
hope in me when he said that. And then I was like, well, listen, I love you. And I started getting sentimental with him. I was like, I love you. I'm sorry that it happened this way. It was hard for me. And it calmed down for a second. He was like, and he said, he was like, listen, we'll like meet and we'll talk. It was calming down. And then he just was like, I just can't believe you sat, like he went back to it. He's like, I just can't believe you sat me there. I'm like, it's not my fault. I didn't know where to sit you. And then it escalated a little bit. Like he said something along the lines of like,
think it was 'cause he
yeah,
was
but
drunk?
I could sit in 100%.
Yeah.
I hear his buddies in the background
Yeah.
who are other angry Italian men who he probably was venting to the whole night about what an asshole his son was.
Yeah.
So then he starts going, he gets louder. And I'm like, hold on. And I see it coming and I'm trying to de-escalate. I'm like, no, hold on a second. I'm like, we will meet and we'll talk about it. He's like, but you You keep on saying you didn't know where to sit me, and that's fucked up, and I'm your dad, and all this stuff. And then it's raging and raging out, and now we're cursing. I'm like, you know what? Go fuck yourself. You because I was like, you're a selfish piece of shit. I'm like, this is, and he's screaming at me. I'm a piece of shit. That we're all everyone's a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. Hang up the phone. I've got tears in my eyes because I'm fucking like, this is my dad. I kept this relationship I kept it solid when I could have been also mad at him for all of his past things.
Right, yeah.
I was, but I was like, I kind of just kept on thinking like, he's going to die one day. Like he's going to die alone. You know what I mean? And that's what I kept on thinking.
That's it? Or do you think that there's going to be a day?
So this is the aftermath of it. Now this is I got married in 2017. So this is like 2016 when we had an engagement party. We haven't spoken. This was 8 years now since we've spoken. I've thought about it for a while. I thought about it over and over again. Like, I'm sure we both, I thought, I thought we both are probably having this moment every once in a while going, got to call him, right? I got to, like, it was a big heated fight, but now a few years passed, right? Like, I could call him, right? He's my dad. And I kept on thinking about it. And then I spoke to my mom once, and she's like, I don't think you should call him. Because she, even though he's divorced from him, has
still
kept
talk.
in contact. Yeah, they're pretty, I was going to say friendly, but my dad's not friendly to anyone. He still flips out over everything. But she's like, I don't think you should call him. And I'm like, really? You don't think that I should, like, mend this before he dies? And she's like, I don't think he's going to be so nice when you call him. So clearly he's talking shit too.
Yeah.
And I still didn't let that bother me too much because I was like, you know what? I know him. He's angry. But I also know that I'm like the only one in his life that when he's mad, usually I'm the only one that could break. Maybe it's because of humor thing or just because we had a very sentimental relationship. I'm usually the only one who could be like, make a joke, make him laugh, crack the anger, and then just like actually say something meaningful to him. And usually, my whole life, that's how it went. Him and my brother would fight like crazy, curse each other out. I was usually the one to just break it. Mm. So I didn't let it bother me too much that she said that. And then I had my daughter. And of course I started thinking again, I'm like, all right, he's got to meet his granddaughter. This is crazy. He hasn't met his granddaughter. He doesn't even know I have a kid for all I know. And my mom actually didn't tell him for a while because my mom's also like, just push the truth aside. Like my mom is a denial person. You know what I mean? Yeah. So she's just like, I don't even want to bring it up. Eventually she told him. And she didn't tell me what happened. She just told me I was like, does he know I have a kid? And she's like, yeah, he knows. And then one day, it wasn't that long ago, maybe like a year ago, I was like, I'm going to call him. I was like, my daughter's 2. This is fucking nuts. Like, I feel like he knows I have a kid. He hasn't called me, which is also already like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Even though we haven't spoken all that long, I can't imagine a world in which my daughter has a kid. And even if something happened, that I don't fucking be the bigger man and call my daughter. That's bizarre to me. I haven't been a parent of an adult yet. I don't know what it's like, but I do know that. I know there's not going to be a world in which I'm going to let my daughter and I, not, especially since nothing really bad actually happened. You know what I mean? Like,
I was going to say this doesn't sound that
that's
bad.
like think about like what actually caused the fight. I know for a fact that will not happen with me and my daughter because like when you hear about people not talking to their kids, it's like, oh, their kid became a drug addict and stole from them, or the parent was abusive their whole life. None of that really. I mean, my dad.
Usually I don't hear the word seating chart in that conversation.
right, exactly. It usually has nothing to do with a catering hall.
You know what's nuts? Like, well, for you and me, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can tell you that I had a good relationship with my dad, but he was very, very strict. And there were things I thought about.
Screamer, did he hit? Scream?
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad hit a lot.
Dude, I was grounded for 3 years. From 6th to 8th grade, I was grounded.
I don't like the way you are.
My dad was a jacked Italian in a motorcycle gang. He was very strict, so I was scared of him. But we were also like best friends. Now, I can tell you that he died in 2010, so 15 years later, there's still times where I'm like, fuck, I wish I could call my dad and I could ask him this or tell him that this
What do I
do
when one of my relatives tries to fuck me?
Yeah, what do I exactly.
How do I handle this?
And that time, that was the worst part.
Here's your protection, by the way. After he died, everyone tried to fuck you.
Exactly, dude. So I would think to myself, like, during all these hard moments, I'm like, man, I wish I could talk to my dad. I wish
sure.
And I know, like, you probably have those same moments, even though
I still like reach for the phone, like, oh my God, I got to tell my dad this.
So, like, it sounds like Your problems with your dad, and I'm going to play a therapist role.
Yeah, it sounds like
It sounds like your problems with your dad are from other people and other shit, and it's just the backlash and the collateral damage.
Yeah, but you know what's funny about what you just said, though? Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
That is true. That's how it all started. His own actions, but mostly the drama was with other people. But what's funny about what you just said is that even if we maintained a relationship, I was never had the relationship with him where I was going to call him for advice.
Yeah.
So, like, even though we had the relationship and he is alive, like, you guys are like, there's still moments where you're like, fuck it, just this would be the moment I'd call dad. I wouldn't have had that anyway. I'd call him, but just to bullshit or to check up on him. He's not a guy I would take advice from because he's so angry. This is a guy who I've seen who in the back of his car, if a stick shift fucking old ass BMW that was like 20 years old that was restored, had a fucking bedpost that was carved out with handmade finger grips on it from fucking Gorilla Tape because if he got into some road rage incident, he was going to beat somebody with a goddamn sawed-off bedpost.
That's not that bad.
He's an angry... It just sounds pretty Italian. Yeah, but here's the thing. My dad did, like, he didn't just have it.
Used it.
My dad got into those fights. My dad one time
yeah.
beat the shit out of somebody with the souvenir Mets Shea Stadium bat.
Yeah.
One of those little fucking bats. Beat the crap out of somebody with. My dad was a violent guy, so it's not the kind of guy. I'm a much more reasonable. I have the anger and the temper, but I'm not that. So it's like there's very few situations I would be like, what do I need his advice for?
That's what I was going to say. You're just asking, like, you're thinking of the wrong advice. Like, you got to go to his wheelhouse. So you got to call him up and be like, Dad, I'm in the car in front of me. There's a black guy and a Puerto Rican. They both cut me off.
One wants a blonde baby.
Yeah, like, what do I, like, where do I go first?
When was the last time you told your dad, and this is weird, but when was the last time you told him you loved him? Honestly.
Probably that fight.
Okay, so that
fight because I was like, look, I love you. Like, it was like a part of the, like, me trying to.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about saying it again? Just because he was drunk that night? Like, it sounds to me like he's a very down on his luck guy.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But
and it feels like the world's against them.
Here's the part. So it was like a stubborn thing for many years on both of our parts, not calling each other. I always had the intention of calling them. Mm-hmm. So what I didn't get to finish before was then I have my kid. My mom does tell him I have a kid. Now, it's like last year. I think I think a little bit more recently. My mom basically finally admitted that he was like, I don't care that he has a kid. He's fucking dead to me. Oof. That moment when I heard that, because now you're dragging my daughter into the mix. I even though I held off all those years, I didn't see us never speak again. I kind of always was like, it'll happen. And I did have a timer in my head, like, ooh, I probably should call him before he dies because not that he's dying, but he's in his 70s and people just die in their 70s, right? Like it just could totally happen, natural causes or something, or just something bad could happen, right? He's not in Jersey, so the bike thing won't happen. But my dad wouldn't be caught driving a motorcycle or a bicycle.
Where's he living?
He's in Queens.
Oh, it's not that far.
No. And a lot of this time that we were in talking, I was in Brooklyn. Like it wasn't. I only recently moved out. Like I'm in Westchester now.
Mm-hmm. From what I've seen in like just day to day, like if you eventually, like, he's a human being, he's gonna get sick, and you're gonna be there because that's it, from what I've gathered just from sitting here with you. You do care,
of course I do. Yeah, so, it never was. I never even for a second said I did it.
Yeah, no,
I know he knows me enough to know that it kills me that this happened, but now I'm not emotional about it anymore. I'm more like, fuck you.
I feel like that's the perfect time to
but how do I call this guy?
I think you just
do it right.
We do it right
here. We do it right here on the show.
I like that you're thinking. I do like that you're thinking of content.
Yeah.
I do.
We have him in, and it'd be so great because I could just see Carmelo being like, "Dad, I just love you so much. This is so crazy. All these years have gone by, and this guy's just gonna be like, oh, you're making me mad."
So
that kid's got a giant dumb smile on his face, and I can't tell if he's enjoying it or if he's just so goddamn high that he's just smiling.
I say you fucking call him and you fake it and be like, okay, like whatever, sure, just so you don't feel the guilt after.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Is like I always had that idea of like I gotta just at this point be the bigger man because he's gonna die.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be like, I can't believe I let that happen.
You got to be your own dad. You hear those
stories I've always heard those stories about people like, yeah, I didn't talk to my dad and then he died and I regret it.
Yeah.
But that last moment, granted, I could have done it much earlier. But my other, what always brings me back to knock on him is so fucking could have he.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's the parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I have too much of a problem with you. I don't care if your kid's fucking 40, which now I'm almost 40. I don't care if your kid's fucking 40. You're still their goddamn parent.
Yeah.
You should be the bigger person. But also, we're probably both thinking that. I gave him life. I gave him all this stuff. He should be the bigger person. I'm like, he's my parent. It's about, when you're a parent, it's more about your kid than it's about you. That's how I feel about my kid. And maybe, you know what I think too? Maybe if I was 3, like my daughter is, and you told my dad there's going to be a day where you're not going to speak to him or his older brother, he'd probably be like, that's fuck. Of course not. There's nothing that could tear me apart from those kids, right? He probably would have said that.
Right.
Yeah. Dude, I have this relationship with my mom. Like, we do not like each other.
Yeah.
Do
you maintain a relationship these days? Or somewhat?
Very, very hard. So I got
Let's get them
taken.
both on.
She would, I don't think she would come on. She would.
It would be a good episode. I'll admit that.
So I got taken from her when I was like 9 for child abuse. I moved in with my dad.
Physical abuse or like neglect?
Physical and both. But we've always, since I was a kid, have had problems. There's fights still to this day. But I'm like, I have to go there. Like, she's really she is the only parent I have left.
Yeah, right.
Like, I had a stepmom who I was very close with, but after my dad died, that was it. So, like, still to this day, I'm like, we have these huge blowouts. She'll yell, she'll curse, call me a failure, fucking loser, like horrible shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a couple months, and then like I'll entertain it, and I'll go back, just because there are moments still. Like, she's not a great person, but I also think it's like a mental thing. She's got something wrong with her, and she's just in denial about it. She doesn't want to get help. So I think to myself, there are moments of weakness where I'm like, fuck, like I wish I had a parent or some sort of comfort. So I keep that on the back burner, and I'm like, let some time pass, and then I'll go back like nothing happened, because I need that. Even though I won't mention it to her, I need that sense of security where I'm like, if by chance something like horrible happens, or I'm in a moment of need, like I can call somebody, and even if it's not what I expect, I know that I can call that person and be like, hey, like I could talk to them and feel on my own
some
a little
sort
bit better.
Of grounding
because
feeling,
I know
it's a parent.
Yeah, exactly. Because I know she's not an old person, but I know one day it's going to happen for her. And I think about that all the time.
You know what I think for a while too? I think for a while, knowing who I am now as an adult is very different than the me that was with him, that was like gonna always try to break the tension with the humor. I also know that I can be such a fucking mean asshole that I think that for a while I also was like, if I speak to him, I might say the thing
You hear that? There's
phone.
a rap song playing on my phone for no reason at all. It was fucking weird. Sorry. Go ahead.
It's all right. I think that maybe I for a while I thought, if I talk to him, we're gonna fight. Why call him again and fight again? And then I thought, and I know that now I have more annoyance to him, and like I'm less like, oh, come on, because the relationship was broken at one point. I always felt like if I talk to him, I might say the thing that might destroy him, because I also know my ability to go off the fucking head.
I meant to put you at that table. That table's where you deserve to be with the neighbors.
Oh, what's up? What's up, table sevener? Oh, hey there, table 7 guy. I can.
What would that go like if you said that?
Well, that's my point. Is that I would
laugh?
say a thing. If I said it after the fact, like if we made up and I went back and made the joke, honestly, my dad's pretty fucking hit or you don't know. You could make fun of him, because like growing up, I'd make fun of both. My mom has a really good sense of humor about herself. My dad would laugh if you made fun of him one day, and the next day he'd be like, "Don't you fucking talk to your father like that." So I don't know actually, but I think maybe he would laugh if we made up, but not if I called him out of the blue. And I was like, "Hey, how does table 7 feel?" I think, but I know my ability to be cutting and mean, and where I use the wit for evil and not good.
It's a comic thing, dude.
I know, and I know that, and so for a while, I'm saying it's not necessarily right now. For a while, I thought, don't call him, because he's going to say something stupid, and you're going to put the nail in the coffin on this relationship.
Because sometimes you're looking to do that, right? Like I
went back and forth on it.
I got a few of those in my life where I'm like, I would just love to just fucking torch this whole thing.
Yeah, there were a million times where I was like, I want to call
but
him
I'm
and tell
always
him what I
happy
feel.
I didn't.
I always felt like, sometimes I'm like, I want to call him and tell him, like, be like, no, fuck. But like, because he's my dad, I'm like, I don't want to put that final nail in the coffin. I don't want it to be so definitive. I was still holding on to this hope of like, we will make up. And then I heard that final thing about what he said when he heard I had a kid. And I don't know, that kind of, to me, put the nail in the coffin. I'm not saying that we will never speak. I am saying that there's a very good possibility, though, that we will never speak, because that, to me, crossed a line that I would never have expected to hear, that my father, no matter how angry he is at me, is like, I don't give a shit that he has a kid. He's dead to me. I know that's an anger and a shitty thing.
He may have said it in a moment of anger.
I think he means that
but
as
there's
like
consequences. You're saying vile shit.
Right, but you think about the type of person he is. It is a vile shit to say, but in his mind, as a father, he's thinking, my son just had a kid and didn't call me.
Right,
so
in
his mind, it's like,
I know.
Oh, fuck him. He's dead to me. He disrespected me. He must think that you think about him the way he now thinks about you.
Yeah, but we also know each other.
That's true too.
I think we're very fucking different. Mm-hmm. We both have the ability to be mean and have a temper, but we are not the same at all. I would think he knows me enough. Maybe not. Maybe there's too much anger there to process this. And he's not emotionally developed enough to do this, but I would think he'd know me enough to be like, he's not sitting there going, fuck him every day. I'm thinking every time he thinks of me, he's like, fuck that guy.
He's also like, that's my son. He should be calling me. Because I know other Italians in my family.
Yeah.
It's like, I haven't heard from you. I'm like, well, you didn't pick up the phone.
Growing up, my dad's reason for everything he said was, but I'm your father. Mm-hmm. That was always the thing. It's like, why can't I go out with my friends? I said, no, I'm your father. Yeah. Why can't I do it? I'm your father. My dad is a very old school, you respect your elder type thing. Like to the point, I've talked about this other show. I remember if it was with you or a while back. My dad would give permission to other old Italian men to hit me if I was speaking an asshole. Yeah. Like if he's facts up, I'm like, what? I don't even know that guy.
My dad's done the same thing. I remember the exact moment. It was like a limo. We told the limo driver, if they act up, hit him. Hit him. The limo driver. We didn't even know the motherfucker. He was just a limo driver. Guy. Yeah. Just shank one of them. Mm. It's like, it's so I don't know, man. I it's unresolved, obviously, but at the same time, I don't know that. Oddly enough, when I heard that thing that he said about knowing I have a daughter and not caring, kind of he cares and it hurts him.
It's not that I don't think he cares, but for him to go out of his way to say it, I kind of also think, well, I have a responsibility to my daughter. Mm-hmm. I have a response, and it's also maybe an unreasonable, overprotective Italian thing.
But if you're a father, it's normal.
But right,
yeah.
But you said something that involved my daughter that's my small child that's disrespectful, and you have basically said you don't give a shit. I know I'm not saying that he does not care. Mm-hmm. I think it's all because he cares. But you know what I mean? It's just his whole fucked up way of processing.
It's an ego thing. You should have called me. I'm his father. I'm his elder. You respect your elders. That's
it's sad, though, because I picture, like his friends are like, oh, when's the last time you talked to Carmelo? It's been years. Oh, what happened? Like, oh, he put me at a bad table.
Yeah.
It's like,
I was too far from the mozzarella.
Yeah. And when was this? It was 2016.
It doesn't
make me mad.
Right. Because now, to me, all that shit is not the thing anymore.
Right.
The fight we had, because I was never even that mad about like 2 days later, I was like, what an asshole, but I was not actively raging. I was only mad while we yelled at each other. I was sad that night.
So if he had called you the next day and been like, look, I was drinking and I would have been done. Not thrilled with the table, but I should have.
The fight would have been over, or we would have kept on talking it out. Maybe fought again, but like I would not have ignored his phone call. We would not have. I do think if I called him the next day, he would have ignored my phone call.
Yeah,
I think that while it was still hot, my dad could rage out and hold a grudge for years. I think that probably after a certain period of time, maybe it would have got diluted. But he's still actively saying things like that. That's the thing. If somebody brings up my father, I've talked about my father on the show plenty of times in not an angry tone.
Right.
I could talk about him, even though I'm mad at him. I could talk about him in a not angry tone because it's like it's my dad. You know what I mean? Like he did fucking give me life, and he wasn't he fucking hit us a lot, but he also there was a lot of good to him. He was very, like I said earlier, Jekyll and Hyde. So. Yeah. there was a lot of good there. I could maintain those good memories.
It does not sound like this is the point of no return. It sounds like
it doesn't sound like it, but at the same time, it feels like it since I heard that last comment.
Mm-hmm.
Because now do I call? Because you were saying before I brought up the thing about my daughter, you were like, you could just call him.
Yeah.
And that was always the case. I could have always just called him, and he could have always just called me. And now I'm like, I don't want to.
How old's your kid?
3.
So your kid's 3. I mean, if you don't want to, that's a different story. If you
Only
don't want to,
since I heard that, I always wanted to and just didn't know how to.
But
now I'm like, not only do I still not know how to start the conversation, but now I'm like, you don't get away with saying that.
Yeah.
You hit a line. That is one place. I mean, I said it once before on the show. I'm a little bit of a problem at the playground. Like, you can't fuck with my kid.
No, yeah.
If another parent is
be.
like, your kid, I'm like, do you want to die here on this playground?
That's how you
want to
be.
see Sicilian fucking rage? Even look sideways at my fucking daughter, and I will, and unreasonably.
But he didn't say anything bad about your daughter. I think if you called him and you were like, if you put it, I mean,
he wasn't like, yeah, little piece of shit.
Yeah, no.
No. I don't know what he said exactly, but I know it's along the lines of like, fuck him, I don't care. He's dead to me.
I think that if you actually, I mean, if you wanted to, this is like coming from me. If this is something you wanted to do, if you called him and you were like, look, like, past is the past. You got to meet your granddaughter. You're her grandfather. When do you want to come over?
Right.
It would be completely different. I
Maybe.
think if you left all that shit.
Does he have any other grandkids?
Yeah, my brother's got 2 kids.
Do you see them?
Does he see them?
I think no, well, my brother lives in Florida now, but I think he only met, I don't know if this is true, but I think he only met my brother's older kid.
I think that
Because they talk,
Yeah.
I think, but they don't have like an active, healthy relationship. So I think like every once in a while it's a phone call. I don't think he met my nephew. I think he only met my niece who's older, I believe.
I would put money on it that if you said, look, past is the past. This is what's going on now. Do you want to meet your granddaughter? Because she's really cool. I think if you said that and he came over, it would be a completely different story. He'd behave himself.
You know, Mike, you're so nice, and I'm kind of understanding why everyone wanted to fuck you so much.
Now your bourbon's talking, bro.
I kind of get it. You're kind
I
of.
got you, bro.
Yeah, I'm a little turned on.
I want it. Look, I know the pain I feel that I can't call my dad, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I know that
right,
I
that's
want.
why I was when you said like, oh, he was like, we both have dead dads. It'll be fun to talk about. He's like, is your dad dead? And I'm like, no, but like dead to me right now. And I was like, oh, this will be interesting because I wanted to hear from 2 guys that had healthier or or somewhat of like good relationship with their dads, because I'm in like this complete Twilight Zone version of where you guys are. You know what I mean? In a sense, like you had relationships, you still wish you could pick up the phone and call. I could pick up the phone and call my dad, but he's done so much damage that I'm like, and understand too that the damage. This wasn't everything's perfect and then this party happened and there was one fight. I tried to hold on to that relationship for years while it was very hard to, and then that happened, and then this happened.
Now here's the difference.
That's the thing.
All those years you were holding it together, you were a kid who didn't really know how to hold it together.
Yeah.
Now you're an adult. Now you're a father. Now you have more in common with your dad than you thought you ever could.
Right. Yeah.
So now you guys are kind of you're a little bit higher than him because just by what you're telling me, I could tell like you're just a better person all around. Not talking bad about your dad, but just from what you said, I think that you could easily be like, you could be the mending relationship. Like whatever happened in the past is the past. You said that. The things that happened in the past might bother you a little bit, but I think that if you maybe build that relationship,
to be honest, they don't even bother me anymore.
Then I think
the only thing that bothers me is the thing he said about knowing I had a kid.
Right.
That's now, because for a while it was more like,
but you're getting that comment secondhand from your mom.
Yes.
Like maybe she paraphrased. Maybe he was more polite
Let me
about
tell you
it.
something. Knowing my mom,
Maybe he was like, I would love to meet her, but not right now.
No, all right.
Carmelo making me mad.
I can tell you now. I know 100% that is completely the opposite, because
I'm not here to say your mom's a fucking liar, but sure, she's a lovely woman.
No. That's the thing, is my mom sugarcoats everything.
Yeah.
I don't think she told me how bad it was.
Yeah, okay.
Because she also
went the other way.
started stuttering because she just hates confrontation. My mom will cry if she found out I spoke to him and got into a fight. She would cry.
She also loves you.
Yeah.
And it sounds
think
like
she
she's
tried to-
protecting you a little bit just in case.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So I think my mom told me a fraction of what he said.
I'm
I
telling
think
you,
she was trying to say.
there's a lot of petty shit in between.
I know.
I feel like you can easily step up if you
know.
want it to.
And that's the thing is I don't even feel petty about it.
Yeah.
I don't even feel like, oh, well, no, I'm not going to do this because I now feel like it would be unhealthy. This is where I'm currently at. And everything you're saying makes total sense to me. And I agree with you in a logical way. I just am at a point where I'm like, we've talked about how I could cut out people, like friends. If they're not good in my life, bye. I have zero sentimentality about it. Like Ken got broken up with by a guy in a diner once, like a friend. Like he had a friend. We don't have to tell the whole story again, but like he had a friend. Like he had a falling out with some friends.
I got when Harry met Sally.
Oh, okay, all right.
So he had that moment, and I'm like, I said to him, I was like, if that was happening to me, the second I know, I'm like, let's just not ever speak again. I'm good. We don't need to do all this. We don't need to have a scene in a diner, right? So like, I'm fine with cutting people out for the most part. He's been the only one that's been like, it's been hanging there,
Well, if that's the case,
but
then
for
you're
all
not
those,
fine with cutting them out if it's still.
I was never fine with it.
Yeah.
I was never fine with it. I admit that. I never liked that it went that way. I thought it was ridiculous that it went that way. It's that last comment, and it's also, I wish there was a way to get my mom to give whole truths like about these kind of things, but I know she will never probably come out and be like, oh yeah, he also said. I know that she was holding back, and there's some assumptions there, of course, but she was like, oh yeah, he kind of was like, dude, it's not good. He wouldn't talk your dad to him, like this is how she was talking to me, like in that cadence, and I'm like, oh, I know my dad. He said some shit, and so I don't know. I think the second I heard my daughter's name even involved in the sentence, I was kind of like,
that's understandable.
That was very definitive for me.
Yes.
So
Also,
I don't know if I'll speak to him again.
It doesn't sound like he said anything bad about your daughter. He said
I don't
he
think
didn't
my
give a
wife.
fuck
I don't think my mother could have told me and my wife
what he actually said.
if he did say so.
Yeah.
I don't know that he did. I'm not saying he did, by the way,
Because that's his flesh and blood too.
Yeah,
I don't think he would.
Yeah, but
I mean, I don't know.
But I'm his son.
Either, so.
But I'm his son, and he's like, "Fuck him, he's dead
Yeah.
to me." You know what I mean? So I don't know. But and by the way, I'm not automatically assuming he said some shit.
No, yeah.
I'm just saying I know what I heard was sugarcoated.
Yeah.
So and it did involve the idea of my daughter.
How often do you think about that?
Well, since he told me, or since my mom told me that was like kind of the thing. And then I spoke to my brother recently, and he's like, yeah, I speak to him every once in a while. He's like, he's still very actively angry at everyone. Fuck everyone. It's him against the world.
Well, no one. Also, I don't want to sound like an idiot, but so you're describing your dad. I have a lot of very similar personality traits of this dude.
Yeah.
So you might actually be my real dad. We might be brothers.
Yeah.
But I know that when
I'll be fine cutting you out too. It's fine.
I know that when I feel like people are coming at me and like everyone's
Defensive.
blaming me, I'm like, fine, fuck you. I can cut you out too. So that's probably where you get it from. You're easy to cut these people out.
Yeah.
This guy thinks he's okay with cutting you out, but if he's still angry about it, he's not over it, which means there's part of him that wants
my dad
the relationship.
my dad could talk about someone who wronged him when he was 7 and still talk about it with a
boomers
rage.
hang on to that.
He could talk about it with a rage like it happened 3 days ago. My dad one time told me about how a nun hit him in Sicily.
Yeah.
Okay, my dad moved here when he was like 11. Oh, a nun hit him in Sicily, and then a priest. It was a priest because his dad went and beat the shit out of the priest.
Oh my god.
I know a long line of very violent people.
Man, they really skipped a generation with you. I don't feel like
I
you wouldn't beat the shit out of a
No.
priest.
I mean, I've gotten into fights, but it's been a very long time, and I don't feel. I get road rage, but I don't. My dad's road rage was like he was trying to run people off the road and fight them with me in the passenger seat. You know what I mean? So like, I'm not like that. It did, but I think that I saw so much of it and it like scarred me as a kid. I told the story too. I keep on referencing stories I told here, but I was like 5 years old. I went out to get Italian ices with my dad. We were going to get Marino's Italian ices. Went in the fucking car. That night ended with us both in the back of a fucking cop car. I'm 5 because my dad raged out on a fucking cop on the way back with these ices, and I ended up in the back seat of a cop car with him. He was cuffed, and he was like, I'm thirsty, and I'm feeding him my cherry ice and on that little fucking wooden stick on the Marinos, and I'm giving him so vivid to the point where when my wife Like recently was like, oh, we should get Marino's ices. I'm like, you know what that reminds me of, right? She's like, oh god damn it.
Dude, that's an awesome story. though. That's fucking great.
I think I told that story with when Kunal Aurora was on, because we were talking about our immigrant parents, and I was saying like, this is the effect that your parents have on you. So my dad raged his whole life. You know what I mean? Like he's always just been an angry, real violent guy.
Is your dad like that?
No, my dad's so weird. Like, my dad was the complete opposite. My dad was the sweetest, nicest dude on the planet. I can remember him raising his voice to me one time ever.
I don't remember my dad speaking softly to me ever.
When I was like 16 and he found out I was smoking cigarettes and he lost his shit, and that's the only time I ever heard him raise his voice to me. My dad was a really sweet dude.
Yeah.
Yo, your dad loves
Your
you.
dad
loves you.
Oh, yeah, but I also don't have denial about that. I'm emotionally in tune enough. There's one thing about me. I get it. I understand the dichotomy. I understand the torture in this man's brain. I know he loves me and my brother. I know he does. I know even when he hit me, he felt bad, but he hit me a lot. But I know he does.
My dad hit me. My dad threw a fully never lit Yankee candle at me. It hit me in the knee, and it was still, to this day, I remember the pain, the worst pain I ever felt in my life. My dad beat the shit out of me on multiple occasions. So did my mom.
Yeah.
I still talk to both. I mean, that's me, and it's different people, but I still talk to both of them. I have a lot of anger towards my mom still.
But you know what's weird is I wasn't even mad at my dad for the way he was with us when I was a kid. I've never been mad about that. I didn't like it. I'm going to raise my daughter very differently. But I was never like, that fucking guy hit me all the time. It didn't cause anger in me. Even still, I can think back to those. I kind of still laugh about the moments where he beat the shit out of me and my brother.
Yeah.
I still kind of laugh about it. So I'm not mad about that.
Yeah.
I'm mad about this thing that happened as an adult. And then I even got over that. But then I'm more mad about the thing he said recently. So, it's a fucked up. It's like in limbo, I feel like. And it's like, I could see us talking again. Because it would be kind of crazy if this whole fucking, like you said about the seating chart, it's kind of crazy if that whole fucking thing triggered over something so goddamn stupid. I know there was something deeper with him, but it'd be so crazy that if I never spoke to him again. But at the same time,
people change with age.
I gotta call this guy and be like,
hey
man.
All he sounds guilty of to me is being a fun wild card. Like,
that's true. That is true.
It was part of that wild card beating your kids for fucking speaking up.
You yourself just said you didn't even care about that.
Yeah, but that's not all he's guilty of. By the way, if he was fun, he would have had fun at that goddamn party I had.
My grandpa was like a fun wild card. Yeah. Like he could show up. He would take us gambling. I remember him flying me to the Bahamas and letting me throw the dice while he played craps.
That's cool.
And he was plying me with gin and tonics.
Yeah.
And I was like 14 or 15. And
my dad was that
But
kind of guy
I
too.
also
That's
remember him taking a swing at my uncle's best friend at a bar mitzvah because he thought my uncle's best friend was hitting on our grandma.
Yeah, dude. It
was a wild card.
We're all human beings, bro. Try to put you like you ever obviously your dad would tell you stories from his age. Ken, would you ever because your dad's dead like mine, do you ever think back at those stories and try to relate something in your life that was similar and be like, did I act like my dad there or did I act like myself?
No.
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
I think I'm so fearful of being like my dad that I do that.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be I know the rage I could have, and I know the moments where I get there, and I do often. I think with my kid all the time, because she's young, so it's not like we're fucking yelling at her the way he yelled at her. Like it's not like that, but sometimes I'm like, if I'm being impatient or if I'm like, ooh, that's dad. I do feel that shit.
It's hard to repress that too when you're like.
I don't want to repress it either. I want to work through it, but it's hard.
It's your DNA.
There's nature and nurture, and there's part of how you're raised, and there's part of just how you're wired. And there's part of me. There's a big part of me that's like him. There's a big part of me that's like my mom.
Dude, I get that.
Like both of these crazy people.
Yeah.
But my mom's also a sweet person. I have that sort of. She's more sentimental. I get that good side from her. and a sense of humor. I get all that from her, but I definitely have that side of my dad where I'm like constantly on watch of it. It's
Absolutely.
I feel like a fucking werewolf. That's like I'm like keep that shit
bro. Yeah.
in. Or like the Hulk. It's more like the Hulk.
Yeah.
It's rage based. It's not moon based. It's not astrology based.
Dude,
what a gay fucking superhero that would be. Every time the moon comes out, I get a little naughty.
Every time if I raise my voice and I sound like my dad in that moment.
Yeah, you hear it, right? You hear your dad.
Yes,
yeah,
dude. If I hear that, my mood goes from completely like 10 rage to like -2. Now I'm like, oh my God, I heard that voice that I used to be so afraid of and that used to strike so much fucking anger in me. Yeah. Now I'm doing it to other people and it's hard to suppress that because it's your DNA. It's who you fucking are. It's in your blood.
See, this is the difference between Jewish and Italian dads. You're like, no, my dad, he had his things, but he was a sweet guy. We're like, every time I scream, I hear my dad's voice in my voice.
Yeah. My dad beat me with a candle, bro. He beat me with a fucking Yankee full candle, glass candle. Hurt.
Yeah, I did not. I mean, even though I didn't live with my dad, but it was never like, oh, wait till I tell your dad. I'd be like, all right, fucking tell him.
Yeah. My mom.
What's he gonna do? He's gonna like run his hands through my hair and be like, "Try again harder next time."
My mom could have always pulled that card, and she did sometimes, but most of the time she didn't. She was afraid to tell my dad.
Dude, I got a funny dad story if you want to hear it.
We'll do one more, and then
I don't want
to
just so we leave on like a positive note. I don't want to like fucking.
But I just want to before you get to it, I just want to say it was nice not being the whiny pussy on this episode.
Ken, I will say I'm always grateful to you because you're very vulnerable on the show. You say a lot of shit, and I don't know Ken that well. I always say, like, and he'll say shit sometimes, and I'm like, God damn. He was surprised. For like 7 straight weeks, he would give me a story, and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
So, you're welcome.
I think that's how we got so tight, because we would fucking tell each other stories like that and be like, oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah.
And our dads died,
that way. And this was a lot for me. I don't speak like this.
I think you did a great job, bro.
Thanks.
You really opened up. I thought this was good.
I appreciate it.
This was healthy for you.
Go in my car and cry. All right, so positive dad story before I get out.
When I was a kid, I was like 17. My friend gave me this incense. It was like a lavender piece of wood. It's incense. He's like, it gets rid of all this negative energy. It was right around when I started smoking weed. So I'm like, yeah dude. He's like, light it in your house. It makes it smell like lavender. I'm like, cool, perfect. So I went home and I showed my dad. I'm like, check it out. I got this piece of incense. Can I burn it in my room? And he's like, no. He's like, don't burn that shit in this house.
Yeah, don't burn anything in my house.
I was like, okay, whatever. So he went to bed, right? And I'm like, I'm going to light this fucking thing. He's never going to know. So I lit the incense, right? And it was a thick piece of wood. And I was just like going around my room with it. And it starts getting real smoky. Like real smoky. All the windows are closed. I'm 17. I don't know to open the fucking window. I never smoked weed without him like knowing.
Right.
So I lit the incense and it's all lit. I'm like, all right, it smells good in here. And I like shake it out. I put it down. The whole house was full of smoke. And it was dark because I was trying to be quiet. I didn't realize how much smoke was in the room. All of a sudden, I hear the door swing open and bang, and I hear like running downstairs, and my dad kicks the door open, all smoke, turns my light on. I'm like, oh my God, I'm dead. Like, there's so much smoke in this house. And he's like, Mike! And like the smoke kind of clears, and as the smoke's clearing, because he opened my door, it reveals his dick. He's completely naked in my room, right?
He was trying to fuck you, Jesus.
And he's like, what the fuck are you? He's like, I told you not to burn. He's like, I thought you were fucking dead. I thought there was a fire. Didn't hit me or anything. I was so scared. So scared I thought I was going to get hit. And I guess he just woke up because he was tired. He turned around and went to walk away. And when he turned around and went to walk away, I saw all baby powder on his ass crack. So I went from being completely afraid to him to being like, this dude powders his ass like a baby.
Can I ask you, this is the last thing I'm going to say on the show. Is there a man in your family who you didn't see fucking naked, whose dick you didn't see?
I saw my grandfather naked, my uncle naked, my dad naked.
Because every story is, I don't know how all your stories end with their dicks.
Yeah, dude. People end up naked. Dude,
does your family not
much of a
believe
good
in pants?
Nah, I don't know. We're just a very free people.
Yeah. Like you're the cock teasing and fucking him.
You ever see your dad naked?
Yeah.
All right, there
Yeah,
you go.
no,
You've seen your dad naked. All right.
Flop, it
Everyone's
happens.
seen where they came from. You ever look at his balls and you ever think to yourself,
I was inside.
yeah,
those.
I was swimming around in that sack, not too.
Yeah, it doesn't look very comfortable.
Yeah, no.
I don't think I liked what it was like in there.
Yeah, what was life like?
I don't
in
really
my
like it
dad?
out here either, though.
No.
So should I go back? What do we do? Well, this was enlightening. Maybe I'll consider your advice. Probably not. I'm also Sicilian.
I feel like you got it. Like I feel like
yeah.
I feel like
whatever you figure out will be the right thing for you.
You're just on the path right
Krantz
now.
thing to say.
Yeah, I'm
He says,
like, I'm thinking about it. Well, if you ever talk to your dad again, it's no skin off my tits. You know?
I don't even think it's an if. You're gonna have to talk to him again.
It doesn't really affect me one way or the other.
Yeah, it seems like it affects Mike. It doesn't.
I really want you to
Ken's
reconnect
like,
with
Mike's
your dad.
trying to fix something in himself by
I
fixing
think I
you
am.
right
Yeah,
now.
Ken's like, I'm hungry.
I'm
We
sorry.
had this show. I want some lunch.
I got sucked in too deep. I'm like, I really gotta help this guy.
I know. I appreciate the.
It's like you don't even need help. I'm just like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't really looking for help.
No,
But thanks
I know.
but thanks for giving it to me, guys. It's a bit too much. Oh, the special. Say
Yeah, I got
right?
a special coming out. It's called Prom King. It should be out like second or third week of October. You can find it on Apple Music, Sirius Satellite Radio, and then I don't know. It might be streaming. I don't know. It's too soon to tell.
All right. Well, by this time, I guess it'll all be out there.
By this time, it'll be out there.
Check
Yeah.
him
Just
out,
look
Mike
me up on
Sicoli.
Instagram at the Mike Sicoli. You'll be able to find it.
And this is quite literally today. This is fucking a bit too much. See you
Thank
next
you.
week.